I mean, that's the thing.
And speaking of that, we're going to get to a point about John Miller and Getter and Ebony Bowden here momentarily. But
so I just sent you a text. I don't know, or on Gab. I don't know if you can pull it up on the stream.
Gab's definitely got to work on
so that people can. Yeah, you guys
got to get better with this, man.
Gab needs a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But man, God bless their hearts. They do everything. They have their own servers. By the way, Getter just while.
No, let's wait on it.
Well, KV. Okay. So anyway, so this thing, can you pull it up? If you can pull it up.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you see from the National Vanguard. This is from January 14th, 2022. This is literally today. British intelligence and the secret banning of Jews. So this is basically MI5 after World War II. There was this kind of thing that they did where they were not allowing Jews in the British Empire, the modern British Empire, they weren't allowing Jews to serve in their intelligence agencies. As a matter of fact,
this happened across the West. Actually, these phenomena it never lasted very long, but there was this healthy skepticism back in the day
there's a lot of,
when Western nations weren't so cucked.
Look, the whole reason that basically Israel was created and this whole chaos happened in the Middle East was because of the Balfour Declaration. For the folks that don't know what that is basically Rothschild sending, and this is in Wikipedia even, Rothschild sends a letter to the King of England saying, hey, you need to create a separate state for Israel. Give us that land, we want it. And so the British made the Balfour Declaration, and they carried it out. There's a lot of fuckery that happened in the Middle East before Israel was created. There's a lot of shit that went down. A lot of people got fucked over in the Middle East, Arab states and so forth. And the Arabs are to blame too. The Muslims and the Arabs right there, I blame them too, because a lot of them were sellouts, a lot of them were traitors, a lot of them would sell their lands and do all kinds of fuckery. The kings.
Well, the Zionist Jews, the people who believed in the Zionist project, it was a lot older than 1896 when they had their first Zionist Congress. I believe that was the right year with Theodore Herzl. But the colonization of Palestine, was done decades prior. Probably in the mid-1800s is when it really began, and then it picked up in full force late 1870s, 1880s. So people don't realize that, ultimately that monstrosity was created in 1947, but the plan for it, the plot for it was well afoot long before that.
And they were trying to do in Argentina at first, but that didn't work out.
Azerbaijan?
No, Argentina.
Okay.
The
I've heard Azerbaijan. I've heard what was the other one?
I don't know about Azerbaijan.
Birobaijan.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard of that. It's possible. I just don't know.
No, what is it?
But Argentina was supposed to be their when it was rejected. It didn't work out. So then they moved to Palestine. Now, this is what's in that archived in the MI5. Okay, quote unquote. No Jewish personnel should be employed, if at all possible, in intelligence duties. That's the quote.
Trying to find it. Where
Think
are you
about
at?
it. I just texted. It's in your Gab inbox.
No. I'm on the link. Where are you?
Oh, just from? Right below that photo that says top secret.
Oh, here it is. Okay, got it.
No Jewish personnel should be employed, if at all possible, in intelligence duties. This was the verdict of a top-level British discussion of security threats in a document that remained secret for 70 years until this week. So this is brand new.
Well, they're reminding the Brits of their ancient anti-Semitism because they're so cucked out right now that, they don't really have much to go on. So they're like, hey, don't even think about it, goy.
Well, there's, and these people, they claim that all these things are conspiracy theories and they're just anti-Semitic undertones.
No. They openly admit everything. They just, you're not allowed to say it.
You're not allowed to say it. They only say it when they want to say it in their own context. But no, when you say it, they say it's not true.
And they frame it as something good.
Right. Well, look. Here's what he's saying. He goes,
Takes the vax.
No, this is the author.
Take the vax. Trust the science.
Kennard.
Trust the science.
Kennard. That's a Kennard. Even though, this is what the author is saying, because they're always complaining. Even though some of these documents are gradually being released, tracing the history of the tangled relationship between international Zionist Jewry and the British secret state is therefore a slow and arduous task. So this guy is admitting that there is an international Jewry, that there's an international Zionist Jewry. Back in the day, if you mentioned the term international Jewry, everybody's like, oh, it's anti-Semitic. You can't say it. But only they can say it. And I think these Jewish supremacists need to be called out. There was also an article that came out about in 2020, out of the 25, in 2020, out of the 25 richest hedge fund managers, I believe 18 of them were Jewish. So a lot of and this is what Michael Schroer is talking about, is that how come the Jewish American community, specifically in the media,
overrepresented in all these things that are detrimental to America as a nation state? How are they involved in all of these things that are detrimental? I mean, he lists them.
It's interesting, but here's my thing. I mean, you're talking about people that have like 25 billion net worth, 13 million, billion, 14 billion. You know, like the 18 of 25 billionaires, top hedge fund billionaires in 2020, out of 25, 18 are Jewish. Now, that's okay. I'm like, fine. But what Schroer is talking about is most of the time when you see these articles that are attacking white people, and remember, we're Muslim, we're immigrants. We're not here to white supremacy or whatever, but we're defending our Christian brothers and sisters and the white people because they're being constantly attacked. And how can there be this attack? And what he's saying, though, just to go back, is that when you look at most of the articles in the mainstream media, most of the pundits, especially the editorials in top news magazines and papers, when you see people that are really attacking white folks, it's typically American Jewish people in these communities, right? They attack and create this white supremacy, this white privilege. Oh, the whites have done this and that. How come they don't have Jewish privilege when most of the billionaires are their people?
It's not just that. It's deeper than that. They claim to be white when they're engaged in this. So, for example, right?
Whites, they claim to be white.
Society looked at when Kramer, right? Mm-hmm. When Kramer was like, he's a nigger, and he screamed at the guy at the top, and he told him that 50 years ago you'd be sitting upside down with a fork up your ass. Well, who would have the audacity to say something like that?
Kramer,
Yid would say that. Not everybody else. You know this white supremacy. Where is the white comedian that just lost it? Where's the white comedian that lost it? You know, because he was washed up, wasn't as funny, didn't have the backing of a internationally recognized show, and then he loses it at some random person in the crowd. Where's that white supremacist? Where is that? But no, you find it because they have a codified book of supremacy. They have the only book of supremacy. So when you see supremacy manifest, it always manifests with them. It doesn't manifest anywhere else because they are the literal chosen.
Well, and then they claim to be victims. They claim to be victims over something that happened over 100 years ago. Do you know how many Holocausts have actually happened? Have you heard of the Holodomor? The Armenian genocide, the Irish genocide. There's so many different people
that we don't ever learn about.
That we don't even learn about, and no one talks about. But they keep bringing up this stuff of over 100 years ago.
But when they say as a white man, as a white male, they'll say those specific phrases. And in fact, that's usually the dead giveaway. When someone says as a white male and they start shitting on white people, look up their name, look up their surname, look up their ancient history. It's almost like a guarantee every single time.
But then when they want to be victims, that happened. There's an actual, I forget who that person was, very famous interview with Morgan Freeman.
He's persecuted as a Jew, but as a white man, he has privilege.
He didn't say anything. He was kind of going off, and then Morgan Freeman calls him out, and as soon as Morgan Freeman calls him out, he goes, "Oh, I'm Jewish.
I'm ancient persecution. I'm ancient persecution. What do
you
know, Schwarzer? What do you know, Schwarzer? All you know is the slavery period. This is from the time of Pharaoh.
I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing about these victimhoods, man. I'm just fucking.
But it's fake too. It's not even real. That's the worst part. It's fake.
I mean, across the board.
It's fake.
I'm tired of hearing about slavery.
Everything is fake.
I'm tired of hearing about anti-Semitism. I'm tired of hearing about racism. While at the same time, these people go on the offensive and literally are being blatantly racist towards white people in the most.
You can't be racist towards white people because they're white, right?
No, Biden said it. They're literally boasting about, hey, this is the first time ever that there's not as many, white folk. The way they phrase it in a way that sounds kind of nicer, but really what they're saying is, hey,
we're more diverse now.
And they say this is the first time ever that there's going to be the white people will be a minority. Could you imagine saying that about any other group?
Anywhere else in the
Muslims,
world.
Arabs,
Anywhere else in the world.
anyone in the world.
Where in the world is that going to be tolerated?
Nowhere.
Can you imagine that in Japan?
Yeah,
in China?
Go to China and tell the Chinese, hey man, you guys need to include more white folks in your commercials and
Go to India, bro.
And it's only in pro-Western and civilized countries. It's only in white countries, especially I think we talked about last time. Europe, Western Europe,
Yeah.
the U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand, like areas where there's white people. This constant push for illegal immigration, this constant push for anti-white, when I hear inclusivity and diversity, when I first came here, I was like, oh, these people are so nice to minorities. Maybe minorities have it terrible. Like me. I guess we're fucking oppressed, or maybe we don't. It's not easy for us. Okay, we're like, you automatically feel like the system's against you when you come in here because that's what they use. Now I hear it and I go, oh, this is just anti-white racism, wrapped in this little bubble wrap that's. We're helping everybody else,
Yeah, we just got to kick them because by kicking them and while they're down, helps everybody else is just lifted
bullshit.
up.
So I understand what Scheuer, where he's coming from. I understand where white folks feel like they're losing their country. They're losing the place that their grandfathers, grandparents, and ancestors fought many wars to protect and keep. And it's like, is there some shit that went down? Yes. Look. Me and you have fought against the empire, the U.S. empire of raping and pillaging the Middle East and other countries for decades. We've been
Right, because it's a
it.
Zog. We recognize it as a Zog. We don't implicate the people of the country, the good, genuine people. There's so many beautiful people in this country, and in fact, without this country, so many amazing stories would not exist. Because stories are the currency of life and generations and intergenerational communication, right, through history. And all of these stories, these beautiful stories, there's all these people coming to one place. And until literally probably the late 90s even. From the civil rights era up to the late 90s, most of the immigrants that came because this was a system of meritocracy. So really, in a lot of ways, you could look at the immigration that happened prior as a brain drain on all those other countries where people came from, whether it was Africa or the Middle East or Europe or wherever. It was people who were seeking a better life, people who would be limited by their, where they were born geographically or where they were geographically in their lives, in their careers, because this is the land of opportunity. And it still is, despite these devils trying to destroy that. The American dream is still alive. That's a very important point too, because, it's very easy to get despondent in this day and age and depressed and upset because it's very difficult. They make it very difficult for the average goy to go out and make an income, and especially if you espouse truths like this, if you believe things like this, if you are anti-vax, if you're anti those who are anti-Jesus, at the end of the day, you will get persecuted. You will lose your job and things like that. But there's also opportunity here that if you have that right entrepreneurial mind, you put a little bit of grit into it, take your time, you can take two sticks together and create something amazing. This is
the greatest.
The greatest nation that ever existed in a lot of ways.
Human experiment ever, and they hate that. They hate that. The enemy hates that. The enemy doesn't like American people. They don't like Christians. They don't like Christ.
They don't like beauty. They don't like creativity. They don't like the genuine natural order and structure of the universe.
And let's be clear. I'm an immigrant. I'm Muslim. A lot of immigrants that come here are fucked. I'm talking about late 90s, up to the late 90s. I'm saying is meritocracy. In general. Not everybody, clearly not everybody, but look, Arabs know this. Okay, this isn't something like the cat's out of the bag. No, they fucking know this. A lot of Arabs come here and they scheme and they steal and they deal and wheel and try to take advantage of the system. And not just Arabs, many minorities.
Everybody. No. Everybody. No, everybody does it.
It's switched from a system of like in the 60s and the 70s where like you can come here to build the American dream. The male figure is working, the mom's taking care of the kids. One worker can take care of the entire household, have his car, have his mortgage, do all of this. And then now it's like, no, you immigrate to America so that you can sit and get all this free healthcare and free education and scam and get food stamps and do that, and everything is free. Let's take advantage. Let's steal from the system. And that's what the left pushes for. I mean,
They don't want you to have opinions. They don't want you to work. They don't want that. So all the immigrants that are coming now, they're able to exploit the system. The mostly the illegal immigrants. The legal immigrants still got to go through a little bit of a process. It's like if you're illegal, you get to jump to the front of the line and you get the best treatment.
Well,
you
yeah,
get better treatment than citizens.
Come on in. Vaccine? You have vaccine? Come on in. You got COVID. It's all right. Just come on right in. Come right in. And that's a problem, man. They're trying to destroy the system. They want to create this. They want to bring back Bolshevism and communism and have everybody rely on government. And I think they find that the white folks are the largest group that stands in their way. And I assume that's probably why they see him as a threat.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's a couple of things. I think it's the ancient hatred of Christ.
They were the majority for a while.
And then they've built the civilizations that people want to flock to. They built the modern world in a sense, right? And by the way, that's starting to go down the opposite way. I mean, you got Dubai, you got places like China where technology is deeper embedded into the infrastructure, whereas we fell apart in a lot of ways. Which was something that Trump was hopefully gonna handle.
I would say this. I would interject and say this, and I said this about countries like Jordan. Seeing the things that changed there. Look, there's a difference between becoming, let's say, technologically advanced and progressing, and there's a difference between becoming civilized. A lot of these Arab nations, they will have all the technology. They'll have their Starbucks. They'll have their LGBTQ feminism shit, which, by the way, they're pushing in countries like Jordan right now, Muslim countries. They'll be modernized, but they're not going to be civilized. I see that because to become civilized, you have to. I mean, Jordan was way more civilized back in the day than it is now, and it's not really it's not like it's in their DNA. It's like they've pushed mass migration on Jordan. Jordan, as a country from the 90s of 3.4 million people to right now in 2022, there's over 10 million people. It's grown by 3 times the amount of people, all in one critical mass city, which is Amman and its surrounding areas. Now it's mostly non-Jordanians, mass immigrants, mass chaos. The people are poor as fuck. Tyranny is rampant. They've collapsed a country, and they're trying to do this same thing with the U.S. and Europe with this mass migration. Countries can't hold their standard of living when you have an influx of mass migration that doesn't have the time necessary to assimilate and adapt. Because when you bring everyone in and they're in the same circles with their same habits, they don't change, they don't progress, they don't become first world. They stay third world. They bring the third world here.
Well, they don't learn the languages either. This is very important.
They don't assimilate.
Yeah.
It takes time to assimilate. And when you have, this much people that just come here and stay in the same place with the same people, the same thought process, what the fuck changed? The environment. You're bringing bullshit to this environment. Don't bring bullshit to this environment.
All right.
Had to go there.
Boom,
man. We came here as immigrants to escape the bullshit from third world countries and third world thought processes. And what you're seeing is now the acceleration of that same bullshit, but bringing it here. And these people are behind it. Look at all the NGOs and another thing about Israel, they want all the world, especially the Western European world and the American and the Canadian and the Australian, they want to push refugees from the Arab areas. Come on, refugees, go there. We, the Jewish Americans, welcome refugees. Come on in. You guys don't allow that in Israel. Mm-hmm. You don't allow a lot of refugees in Israel. Why? Why is that an ethnocentric state?
Yeah,
it's a lot of hypocrisy, and I think it has to be called out, man. Andrew Tolbert kind of always says that on Gab, that part of free speech is you say things that offend people, but you got to say the truth. And it's the most important thing is to come up with the truth. Yeah. No one's here trying to incite violence and trying to tell people to attack other people or just, picking on certain groups. But when you have protected
truth
classes,
is the truth.
The truth is powerful, man. The truth fears no investigation. You
Correct.
can look everything up. And all we want to do is have peace and have the truth come out, and these people that are in these high positions of power that are usurping the power and using it to dominate the world and to create chaos, they need to be called out. That's all we're doing.
And then they need to have their power stripped from them through popular revolt. Disobey the overlord. Speaking of that,